I said during my time spent overseas, 13 years, I didn't lose touch with Singapore and the culture because at the point in time my mom ensured that I have to speak Mandarin at home. So whenever I make a phone call back to her, we always converse in Mandarin and even our family dialect, which is Hokkien. Then at the point of time I was pretty young. I went in when I was 11 years old. So for a period of time during high school, I had to actually write composition back in Chinese to her every week by fax. Back then there's no email, there's no scanner, so I have to write back a letter to her every week just to practice my language and get in touch. And from the frequent phone calls, she will update me about things happening in Singapore. Yeah. Then during my time at uni, those Singaporean friends, they constantly remind me of this Singapore identity. So I don't think I lose touch. In fact, I think I gained a lot more. About 17 years when I entered uni. So these group of friends who are still very close friends with me, they introduced me to, hey, why not join the Singapore Student Society? Get back in touch with Singapore. Because when at the point of time my accent was even stronger than I am now. So they just said, hey, you need to get back in touch with Singapore. At the point of time we have to interact with not just local Singaporeans, but people from all races as well. Because in Australia it's a very diversified country. There's a lot of different cultures as well. So we have to plan for events. We have to communicate with them and get the feedback from them. How can we improve our events? Like for example, one of the events we started with in 2004. We only had about 400 or 500 people attending. But by the end of it, when I left the society, the student committee, we had about 2,500 people turning up. Yeah, so it was a big improvement. That's because we had the feedback and we acted on the feedback. At that point of time, I decided I want to study Indonesian because that's the closest language available back in school that's closest to Malay, which is the national language of Singapore. And I wanted to keep the culture and understand and learn more about the language because after all, Singapore, we still converse in Malay. Even our Hokkien language in Singapore, there's some Malay infused in there. So it was important to me at that point of time that I chose Bahasa Indonesia, and I think I can converse well enough. During my house visits, I can converse and understand the residents, like just the greetings, and even during Hari Raya, just a simple greeting to them. And when we leave, terima kasih, so on and so forth. I think I can still converse in Malay with them. I remember one of the very first event I did was a Christmas event. I was invited down to make balloon animals for the kids because I started learning balloon animals during my part-time work. And I felt that it's interesting how a small item can give so much joy to the person I give. So after that, seeing like the young kids, they were so happy just receiving it, and seeing the grandparents taking the balloons for their family members, I felt contented. I felt that this is something that's very rewarding for me personally. So after that, I started going to the Chinese New Year event, then followed by the Mid-Autumn event, followed by the Hari Raya and Deepavali event. And as I progress and as I continue to join those events, I really feel the warmth and the welcome of the residents, and it's a very special feeling for me. Just a simple thank you at the end of the event, like just by them coming up to me and shaking your hand and say, hey, thank you very much. My kids loved it, or thank you for the item, thank you for your time for creating this event. That to me was enough to keep on my involvement with community events. They might have to take consideration when they want to start a family, because having a kid is a lifetime commitment. It is not something that you just want to do it without serious planning. So you have to take consideration like location and the expenses for them. Maybe you have to take into consideration their tuition, their education, their welfare, the medical issue. And on top of that, I feel that families should really take into consideration and be mindful that their parents are aging as well. So you have medical costs you have to take into account when you plan for all these things. And with housing prices increasing, a large chunk of your salary will have to go into supplementing to contribute to provide a housing for your own family. So it's getting tougher and more challenging for them. And if they have to take a longer time to plan, it means that they have to take a longer time to, repopulate Singapore, so to speak, to have younger kids, to have young Singaporeans for the future. I find that every year when I return back to Singapore, I sense that there's a change in the attitude of Singaporeans. They seem to be more tense, more stressful, and I think you can boil it down to a work-life balance. I feel that a healthier work-life balance is important in terms of the mental and physical welfare of Singaporeans. So they should take in mind, because having a good work-life balance will affect the family directly, and family to me is one of the foundation of the country. It's a foundation, I believe, should be a foundation for everyone. A burning issue that I really hope the country can move forward to is, please take into consideration, listen to the feedback of the people. No policies are perfect, but I believe that with the voices and the opinions of people being taken into consideration, we can craft a better and more inclusive policy for all Singaporeans. I feel like Singapore should head towards a direction that's more inclusive of the voices and opinions of Singaporeans. I feel that as Singaporeans, we are part of the country. Any policy changes, any direction by the government should take into our consideration as Singaporeans, because everything will affect us. We are here to stay. We're not going elsewhere. We're not going to migrate. I think it's important for young Singaporeans to really take charge of our future. I feel that it's important for young Singaporeans to make the step to be a part of the growth and the progress of the country. We will be staying here for the next 10 years and 20 years. So it's important for them to take charge, for them to contribute more, rather than just listen and just follow through with the action.